Now please join me in welcoming your class of 2024 student keynote speaker, Rebecca Brach.
How many times in your years at Providence has a lovely little coincidence occurred? For example, you're on your way out the door to get dinner or coffee or to study when you run into a friend you haven't seen much recently who happens to be heading in the same direction. As you walk together, you mention something that has been on your mind, and it turns out your friend has been thinking about the exact same question. I'm sure each one of us could think of 100 other personal examples like this, where some act of fate times things just so, and you can't help but turn to your friend, smile ironically, and declare, "Well, that's Providence." Get it? Because we're at... Well, it's certainly not the most ingenious joke ever, and was old well before hearing it for the 42nd time. It perhaps makes light of a truth that may help us as we take this step forward, and that is this: God is providentially in control of every part of our lives, from the most painful ordeals to the most joyous experiences, to the smallest and most mundane moments. Think back to the months before you got to Providence and think about what led you to come here. One of the first questions we often ask new students is, what brought you to Providence? And very rarely do you get a simple answer to this question. Many times the story begins with, I wasn't supposed to be here, but then, followed by an unlikely series of coincidences. I would like to share a part of my story as an example. The only reason I knew about Providence is because during my freshman year at a summer camp, my best friend walked me over to the Providence admissions rep because I was too scared to talk to her myself and said, "She's interested in Providence," and walked away, abandoning my introverted, terrified high school self to talk with a complete stranger. After surviving that conversation with a lovely admissions counselor, I decided to apply to Providence, but my plans were to go in a very different direction. For years, I had been pursuing my dream of studying vocal performance. I had applied to multiple schools, auditioned for a program, had been assured I had a good chance of admittance, and I thought I had a solid plan of what my life would look like for the next 10 years. Right up until I was rejected from almost every school I applied to. I was devastated and directionless, floundering about for a new path. The one place that welcomed me with open arms was Providence. What an incredible stroke of luck. Maybe you don't feel your path to Providence was quite as dramatic, or maybe it was far more so. What is so incredible is if you ask any student or faculty how they came to Providence, you will hear the same sort of story of many coincidences falling perfectly into place to open the door to come here. Well, that's Providence. Now think about your time here. Maybe it was only a year, maybe it was 4. Try to remember who you were when you walked through the doors of Witherspoon. For those of us who have spent 4 years in college, we began in the uncertain and virtual world of COVID. We all struggled through that year in various ways, wrestling with fear, anger, and uncertainty. Compare that time to where we are now. In these past 4 years, students have met their spouses, friends have been baptized, and lifelong friendships have been formed. We have watched Providence grow, the community pouring into one another, and the staff and faculty united in the goal of loving God and teaching students to do the same. What an unexpected blessing that because we began this journey during such a difficult time, we have been able to see such an incredible working of God's grace. And in the midst of this sweeping and overarching drama, little moments of coincidence continue. Do you remember the first time you were in a class and you noticed the things your professor was saying sounded very similar to what you heard in another class? And then the next week your pastor says the same thing, and then you hear those words on a podcast and at the booth next to you and on the phone with your mom. What a coincidence. You receive a text from a friend just as you're thinking about reaching out. Another student walks up to the doors of Witherspoon as you realize you forgot your key fob. Someone left snacks in the Ark the day you had no time to go make some food. And those roommates you got thrown together with freshman year turned out to be some of your closest friends. Through seeming coincidences, God directed our paths to this school. In our years here, He has provided through so many little happenstances. The Heidelberg Catechism, question 27, asks, "What do you understand by the providence of God?" It answers, "God's providence is His almighty and ever-present power, whereby, as with His hand, He still upholds heaven and earth and all creatures, and so governs them that leaf and blade, rain and drought, fruitful and barren years, food and drink, health and sickness, riches and poverty, indeed, all things come to us not by chance, but by His fatherly hand." There is no such thing as chance. Every fortuitous moment we have experienced here at Providence truly is providence. Even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant thing, God both is sovereign over and cares about. His providence upholds everything, our every breath, the people we meet, and yes, the pain we experience. So what does this mean for us as we graduate and leave Providence? Philippians 1:6 says, "And I am sure of this, that He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." God began a work in you. He continued it through your time at Providence, however long or short it was, and He will continue it after you leave this school. God places you where you are for a reason. No time, no relationship, no experience, however painful or frustrating or exhilarating, is ever wasted. In His perfect timing, He gave you this time at Providence, but you will have providence in your life anywhere you go. The opportunities you see, each meeting of chance, are according to His sovereign will. You cannot make a choice that takes you outside of God's sovereign providence. So, seek the Lord where He has placed you. Embrace every moment as an act of His providence. You are there for a reason, and no experience will go to waste in the work God is doing in your life. It has only been 4 years. Think what God has done in so short a time. What will He do with the rest of your life? You've seen God's faithful sovereignty, so go forward with confidence and courage, ready to joyfully say, "Well, that's Providence." Thank you.